Hello, BookTube. I almost forgot the last mail haul of the week. We have a very small thing here. It's always a melancholy thing when the mail can be wrapped up in one rubber band. But it's not unexpected because it's on and off pouring rain and thundering here, so I wasn't really waiting for a large tub of books out front. In fact, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't get them because it just, if I'm not paying close attention, they might sit there in the rain. So we'll do these three things together, and that'll be the last of our potential squealing until Monday. So let's see what this first one is. It's oh boy. Okay, great. All right. First one is from Oxford University Press, one of the greatest university presses in the world, and this is a 2020 book. Yes, this is another 2020 book. This is by Jeffrey Stone and David Strauss, and it is called Democracy and Equality: The Enduring Constitutional Vision of the Warren Court. And that is what it's going to look like there. And this is about one of the formative courts of my lifetime. The Warren Court, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren from 1953 to 1969, brought about some of the proudest achievements of any Supreme Court in United States history. The Warren Court declared racial segregation and laws forbidding interracial marriage to be unconstitutional. It expanded the rights of citizens to criticize public officials. It held school prayer unconstitutional, and it ruled that people accused of a crime must be given a lawyer even if they can't afford one. Despite these monumental accomplishments, the Warren Court is routinely attacked by conservative critics today, claiming that they abused their authority and were too quote-unquote activist. And in this book, two eminent legal scholars examine the 12 of the court's most important and controversial decisions, including Brown v. Board of Education, Engel v. Vitale, and New York Times v. Sullivan. Okay, so this is in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the end of the Warren Court, and sounds like it's going to be uninformed, restrained, but still a celebration of the Warren Court. I have mentioned on this channel before that I am an abiding U.S. Supreme Court junkie. I've read many High Court biographies and memoirs. I read the decisions that come down from the High Court. I follow what they do. I followed the two major decisions that were made, for instance, last week by the U.S. Supreme Court, one of which was absolutely disastrous, but there was unlike a lot of critics of the court, it was a rule about gerrymandering. And unlike a lot of the court critics who bash the court for being a Republican tool, because the Republican Party's demographic base is shrinking so quickly that they need to radically and gerrymander districts just in order to maintain minority rule in Congress. And a lot of critics were bashing the court for saying that ruling applauds gerrymandering. And it's, I think, much more complicated than that. It's been fascinating to read about it. There are all sorts of law journals, law reviews that will have long and learned articles about that decision and the other major decision this week was major U.S. law being written for a generation in 1 week. So I'm greatly looking forward to reading those pieces, and I'll happily look back in time too. The Warren Court is interesting to me. Okay, all right. This is from Scribner, and this comes out in September, and it is another really good example of what I say on this channel, which is that, much as I love the Brattle Bookshop, I'm not going to go to the day if it's threatening thunderstorms, but as much as I love the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, as much as I love the used bookstores just in general, wherever I may roam, there's increasingly less need for me to go. If you consider that the reason I would go to a used bookstore is to scratch the non-new itch, as you know on this channel, except there are a lot of you who are new. Welcome if you're new. I love new releases. I live new releases. I am myself a book critic, and as you see on this channel, I get new releases all the time in the mail, and they're the bulk of what I read. The shifting has gone steadily from 50-50 to 60-40 to 70-30 to now it's 90-10, even more than that. And that leaves a little sliver where you would think that I would still have a hunger for the random serendipity of used books, of older books. But even that is covered by the publishing industry because they are constantly reprinting things. And you never know ahead of time what they're going to reprint. Some of it will be driven by anniversaries. Some of it will be driven by a new vogue that the author has, but a lot of it is driven just by the idiosyncratic vision of the editors involved. where you're an intern, you're sorting mail, you're working your way up, and the whole time you're thinking, you know, what I would love is the ability to actually shepherd into print a new edition of Name the Author that I really loved when I was first learning how to love reading. That's totally unpredictable. And here we go. This is a perfect example of that. This is a new translation of Arthur Koestler's Darkness at Noon. So there was no reason for me to ever go and get this book in a used bookstore. It was sent to me. This book has been in print continually since 1940 and has been translated into over 30 languages and is both a stirring novel and a classic anti-fascist text. You see, that might be one of the totally unpredictable reasons why Scribner decided to bring this back into print. Because, 10 years ago, no one would have imagined that America would have a fascist as president. Someone who would like this to be a fascist dictatorship. No one would have imagined that. And so that could easily be a reason why Darkness at Noon is not only reprinted, but newly relevant. A bad reason, but still, you never know. Let's see, the book is set in the 1930s at the height of the purge and show trials of Stalinist Moscow. It's a haunting portrait of an aging revolutionary, Nicholas Rubashov, who is imprisoned, tortured, and forced through a series of hearings by the party to which he has dedicated his life. And this is a new translation. In 2015, a German graduate student stumbled across an entry in the archives of the Zurich Central Library that is a scholar's dream, a copy of Koestler's original complete German manuscript for what was to become Darkness at Noon, thought to have been lost irrevocably in the war. So this is the cover says, a new translation by Philip Boehm of a recently discovered complete text. So that's another reason why, a big reason why you would do something like this, is because you now have a version of Darkness at Noon that's never been seen before. Okay, so fantastic. And also, that takes care of my itch for rereading. I will just reread Darkness at Noon and a few other things that are coming out. And then this last one, we'll do the last package. No boxes today. We'll do one more package, and then we're done. What is this next one? Oh my. Okay. All right, this is a hardcover coming out in September. This is by Bridget Strawbridge Howard, and it is Dancing with Bees, A Journey Back to Nature. Bridget Strawbridge Howard was shocked the day she realized she knew more about the French Revolution than she did about the native trees, birds, and wildflowers that surrounded her. That's true of most people, even today. I guarantee it's true of most of you. Do you know? Do you know how many... Let's just confine it to mammals, not even talk about insects. Do you know how many mammals live within 10 miles of where you're sitting right now? I bet you don't. People in rural areas, upstate Maine or in Vermont, might know, but most of you wouldn't even guess. Shaken by this discovery, the author began a journey, one filled with silver birches and hairy-footed flower bees, skylarks and rosebay willowherb, that reintroduced her to the joy that comes with deepening one's relationship with place. Planet Earth, she soon learned, is home to at least 20,000 species of bees, yet only 9 are the honeybees that instantly came to mind for many of us. It is the diverse and mysterious remainder of the bees that the author finds so fascinating and explores in the pages of Dancing with Bees. Oh my, okay. All right, wonderful. Wonderful. I'm always up for a nature book. This one is a little bit melancholy for me because me sainted Ma had a thing about bees. She really did. She had a thing about bees. And carried around forever. In her purse, she carried around what she referred to as a bee book. That was the only kind of book. I always joked with her, it was the only kind of book I'd ever seen her have. She would carry around a little book that was just the right size to swat a bee. And she even when she was well into old age and would constantly complain, you wouldn't believe it, Steve, I can't even see the tablecloth. That's how bad these eyes are. But if you were out on the sidewalk with her, she could spot a bee, and you'd say, where? About 1,000 yards in that direction. And so, just because I was a bad son, whenever I would get a new book about bees, I would always get an extra copy and send it to her. And I would put Z's and buzzing sounds on the envelope, and she would open it, and she would call me, or when we talked that day, if I called her, she'd say, what are you, wise? You know I don't like bees. but she'd keep it on her coffee table for her little old bitty bean friends to see. She always kept the newest, latest bee books on her coffee table. I'm sure I'll be remembering that while I read this. Wonderful. All right, well, this is September, so as tempting as it is, I think I'll probably let it wait for a bit. I'll let it wait for the summer. And the Arthur Koestler is September as well, and the Oxford is January. Arthur Koestler's a bit of a temptation. I haven't read Darkness at Noon in a long time, and according to this pub sheet, I haven't read it ever. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, that's our mail haul for today. We have some history, some High Court, Supreme Court history, which is great. We have a revamped and reissued classic, and we have natural history about bees. so there you go. Oh my, I'm glowing, aren't I? I can never tell with the lighting. I'm still playing around with locations in this room, but some of the locations that seem right to me get a resounding no because there's no chance that Frida will show up in them. And you're all watching for her, not me anyway. Anyway, we're done anyway. So I'm sorry that my head is missing from this whole video, but I'll wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.